Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 109. I'm Tito Santana. If you've listened to the last episode, you know that we said goodbye to Doc, our previous host. And I'm sure you don't want to hear me talk by myself. I have a whole different podcast for that, which I do occasionally. But I think I needed a new partner. And I think that if you've been paying attention, you probably knew this was coming. So, Pylet, new host of the Bread and Butter show, welcome. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited to be on as a permanent host and not just the guy that keeps showing up week after week and you can't get rid of me like I joked about the other week.
Some say we were just getting you prepared for your new role.
Yeah.
And easing you in slowly. Okay, but today we're going to talk about the new set, the Emerald Dream. We're going to touch upon the new core cards. We're not going to do a deep dive because we'd be here forever, and you can always just go listen to Coin Concede, who just did that. We'll talk more about just kind of the new mechanics, how we understand them, and we'll also, when we talk about the core, we'll touch upon like maybe some of the new cards, and then as we go through the sets and we start getting an idea of what these classes look like, we'll bring the core cards in and see how they synergize with the new mechanics and the new things, and see where it is. And just remember too that you may wonder, hey, why is this card here? And it's not for that first set. It might be for that second set, or it might be for that third set, or it might be a complete red herring that, like the priest res undead one or whatever there, that no one figured out what it was for. But Pylet, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
Been trying to just play comfortable good decks because I've been busy, so I haven't had a ton of time to play. So as much as I normally like kind of messing around with things at this time and as open as the meta kind of feels, I've been sticking with that, especially since I'm playing in the Coin Concede listener series and have started well with that. I'm 3-0 so far with the Swiss rounds there, so that's been going well, so I haven't wanted to jinx that. I hit Legend, I think earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, with Location Warlock. Now that I think about it, I think it was last week, because I think I hit it right before the show last time we recorded. So Location Warlock's been good. Played a little bit of the Shaman, but mainly just kind of had enough time to complete quests, and that's about it for now. What about you, Tito?
I was struggling a little bit, and I wasn't struggling. I was at D5, and you know how you get to that D5 and you start playing 500 because you're playing, good people, and I'd go up to 3 down the bounce back there, the sine wave, to 3 to 2 to 5 to 4, and I was playing the Zerg Death Knight, which I was having a lot of fun with. It's a good deck, but apparently the meta is shifting a little bit, and it's not as strong as it was, I guess. And so Pylet suggested, hey, let's go ahead and why don't you try Shaman, the Shaman. And I have played some of the Shaman, is really good. Maybe I was being a little hipster, not playing one of the better decks. But I played it, and we got to D3 yesterday. And then now, today, I played before the show. I was putting off doing the show notes. And I said, let's just play a few games. And I realized that I had all my daily quests were full. So I said, we'll just play, knock some of those out. And I rattled off 13 wins in a row. Got myself to Legend and won a few games in there. I did play a few games where I substituted a Gift of Thrall for a Nars Dormu to get that quest completed. And it actually factored in. In fact, my opponent had to lock down whatever it is the make it 1 mana to prevent it from doing its work. So didn't actually play any Nars Dormu. And I was commenting about this today. I know it's the 18th. Today's the 18th, not the 15th when the quest comes out, but I don't think I've had a Nars Dormu game in like a year where you actually both playing Nars Dormu and you're playing the quick games. It just hasn't happened for me. How about yourself, Pylet?
I had one this month. My last Nars Dormu game this month was a one where it's actually both players playing it. I normally go and complete it in Wild. I just play Dragon Rogue. And I ran into someone playing like Libra and Paladin or something, which seems like the worst deck to do Nars Dormu with 15-second turns if you're trying to play all your spells, but more power to them.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I drag. That's how I used to do the Nozdorm quest. Was the Death Rattle Cheese Dragon deck with
Hmm.
yeah, Deathwing. But I just figured, you know what, I'm playing this. Can one card really make that much of a difference over a small sample size of 3 games? I protest that it doesn't, although it probably could did. I've run into a couple weapon rogues, and sometimes they can get through all the taunts that I can throw up there, but sometimes they can't. So yeah, uh, but it was a fun deck. I like the climb, and I was really starting to get a little anxious because I don't have a full month to get to Legend. Because I'm taking and a programming note. We're not going to be here next week. I know it's a busy time, but I'll be in Disney World, and Pylet has productions for, and I'm sure I'll talk about that for his shows. So it's a week where we wouldn't have probably been able to make it work. So we'll take next week off, and then we'll catch back up the week after. Looking forward to it. But Pilot, what have you been doing outside of the game that I might have just alluded to?
Yeah, we're kind of hitting the last little bit of our musical that I help direct with the school I teach at. So this is kind of our, as Tito said, production week. Next week is our show week. So just kind of seeing and putting everything together, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, seeing what set pieces are in the way of what we need to move when, and all that fun stuff, and start getting all the mics out and having headaches with that. I had to fix an issue with that to where I thought that I set everything up correctly, and I think I did, and then something got messed with because all of the mics were going through the wrong speakers, causing a ton of feedback. And it took me about an hour to figure out why, between running back there when I had a chance and then going back to where I normally stand to conduct the show and running back again. So fun times. I hate working with sound equipment because it's a headache, and random things work and then they don't work and then they work again without touching anything. So that's how it goes. Outside of that, they kind of brought up on the show before. I bowl semi regularly in leagues, and this past weekend did a tournament. A local bowling alley does a 40 frame game, so it's 40 consecutive frames, basically 4 games, but each frame has a special rule to it. So some of them you get an extra bonus if you get a strike. Some of them you lose pins if you don't get a strike for every pin that you leave. Some of them you just straight up get cash if you get a strike, different things like that. So a really fun, unique way to kind of play. Ended up doing much better than I had been when I've bowled at that alley in the past. It kind of set up pretty well for me. So I'm sitting, I think, like 14th out of 82 right now after the first weekend. So I'll take it for kind of being in a slump lately and kind of getting out of it for that. I didn't bowl well back in my league afterwards, but that's neither here nor there. So Tito, what have you been up to?
Well, I can say that with your audio issues, dealing with audio just for podcasting is a nightmare. So I can't imagine dealing with it on that kind of level. And I never want to. It's been a quiet week. We had a 3-day weekend. I think I've already done my life outside of Hearthstone 2 days ago when we exit interviewed Doc. So between that time and this time, I have gone to work basically, and that was it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
there.
enough. So let's go ahead and dive into the Emerald Dream. So the new expansion has been announced. It's coming out March 20 something, 22, 26, something like that. Towards the end of March. So we have a pretty long reveal season here. In fact, I saw that Zeddy's reveal is like March 11th, and I was like, wow, that seems slow compared to the way they've been doing it, but that's cool. We'll have a nice slow kind of reveal, and we can actually spend time watching everything, because sometimes it comes I like it when it comes fast, but sometimes it comes too fast and it's like, well, I didn't even see half these cards. And it doesn't matter because after the first week, you're going to know what cards are good and what cards aren't, because you're going to see the really good cards all the time and whatnot. But I like they had a little reveal video. They also had a pre video for the year coming. Like it was a song. I think it was about the whole year of the Raptor. And it was pretty good. And this one had the new. Was it Alex Smith? Is that his name? It had the
I
new.
think that was it.
Alex Smith
I got
is
about
the
halfway
lead
through it.
lead dev, but it also had a few different people. Normally, we see some of the same people. We see, like Leo. We don't see enough deck tech. Like we need more deck tech. But we saw some VFX people. In fact, if you remember Luke Mason, who we interviewed on the show not too long ago, he was prominently featured in the little vignette and talking about how the VFX is, how they worked on it for this and made it feel really naturey and um, stuff. So that was really cool. It's worth a good watch, and it's nice to see them mixing in some different people and some different point of views rather than just the nuts and bolts. So as it is, we always get some new mechanics. Pilot, why don't you bring us through the first mechanic, imbued?
Yeah, so they ended up going in this expansion similar to what they've done in the past when they've had kind of a split half and half, or sometimes three different groups with mechanics or factions or things like that. Here they did that with the two new keywords. The first one is imbue, which is for druid, hunter, mage, paladin, priest, and shaman, and it is a very unique effect to where the first time you play a card with imbue, the imbue keyword, you get a class specific hero power. So it completely changes what your hero power is. It's not an upgrade to your base hero power. And then every subsequent time you play a card with imbue, all the numbers on that new hero power upgrades. So if it has any ones on it, will go to a 2 or things like that. We've only had a couple of them revealed so far. For Hunter and Shaman, Hunter's new hero power is give a random beast in your hand +1 attack, and it costs 1 less. So when those upgrade, both of those will go to 2. It gets 2 attack, 2 cost 2 less, so on and so forth. And then Shaman is getting an evolve effect, transform a friendly minion into a random minion that costs 1 more, and that upgrades with the cost X more. A note, if you are not one of those 6 classes, then imbue does not do anything if you play it. So we did see one neutral card with imbue that was revealed today. If you play that in warrior, it does not do anything. It is just a vanilla stat minion.
I wonder if so. There's obviously some cards that rely on imbued, like so. Hey, if you've imbued 4 times, do this, that, whatever. I wonder if in those classes, like say you're playing warrior, if you play 4 imbued cards somehow, some reason, if you still get that effect, even though your hero power didn't change. So it'd be interesting to see if that happens. It sounds like something that would be weird but interesting. Um, and I was hopeful for a second that maybe with the priest imbued we get some kind of shadow priest back, but I doubt it because the theming of this is the druid and the hunter, mage, paladin, priest, shaman. They're all on the side of light, good. The druids trying to keep the tree of life intact. So I doubt they're going to go shadow with priests there. I wonder if they would have thought maybe make the priests the bad guys and gone that way. But speaking of bad guys, the other keyword is Dark Gift. And we're going to have Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior. All kind of seems like okay. But dark in this case, the Dark Gifts work for all classes. So the light can kind of reach into the dark there, I guess. But the dark can't touch the light. Um, so the effect is the dark gifts are a pool of 10 effects, which add certain minion discover options. So when you discover a minion with an effect that grants a dark gift, each minion in the you get to discover. You get to pick, just your normal discover UI has a dark gift effect attached to it as an enchantment. So the discover options are minions with random dark gifts already attached. You do not discover the minion and dark gifts separately. So it's like a combo there. And the effects are you get charge, you get +4/+5, place this card on top of your deck, which I think we're going to see a little bit more of placing things in your deck because I think we've already seen it. Well, there's another card in the set that deals with that. Plus, we've had some in the past with Priest, so we'll see how there's synergy there. But costs 2 less, but has -2 attack. And this is only offered on minions whose attack would not reduce below 1, so you're not going to get a wisp here. When you play this minion, summon a 2/2 copy of it. This minion's battle cry trigger twice, only offers on minions with battle cries, so you're not going to get a battle cry. Triggers twice on something that has a death rattle, unless it has both a battle cry and a death rattle. +2/+2 in elusive, +3 attack and lifesteal, +4 health and taunt. Reborn, Reborn, you with full health and enchantments, so that's nice, and Divine Shield and Wind Fury. So I think, but if you watch the video, they just combined them because they were going to give you kind of like the choices like you might have somewhere else, but and like pick the minion, pick the choice. But they decided that it would be a lot easier to do it this way, especially with some of the um, possible conflicts, like with the battle cries and whatnot. So, as I said, choose one. Sorry, we're not there yet. So this is an interesting effect. I think this is going to be fun. I think this is like lackeys on steroids in kind of a way, right? So, you, it's not going to be that predictable. I don't think it's going to be that reliable. It's 3 out of 10 is not going to be something like you already know. How often do you get what you want from Symphony of Sin? Uh, Feels like not very often, but it also feels like you get it a lot. So there's going to be some wacky stuff here, and I think it's great. Also, there's going to be because this is a druid theme set, because you get the druids and it's the Emerald Dream, and it's their whole thing. Each class is getting a choose one card, so there's going to be a lot of that out there. We've seen, I think, one. We'll talk to it, or maybe there's two, but so that those are the things. There's also, and we mentioned this. There's also kind of like a, you know how they always have the non-keyword things, like you had the wind-up stuff in Whiz Bang, and there's always the brochures, and there's always like some things that are not really keywords, but keywords. We have some like every class has a wild god,
Yes.
so these are going to be along the theme of the if they're on the light side, they're light side, the dark side, they're the dark side, and it's they're like one of their legendaries. So that's kind of another thing, and I'm sure there's probably going to be something else in there that isn't quite like drinks. Drinks was like another one, right? That wasn't like an official theme keyword, but it was something that was themed throughout.
Hmm.
So we got it. We They did things a little differently this time around. So we get our typical card. You get the one card that goes along with the pronouncement. So that's out there today. We'll talk about that one second. And they also gave us cards in the shop. Now, at first, when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna make you buy cards in the shop or something like that." But no, it's free. You just go to the shop and click on it, and it gets. I think they just want to bring attention to the shop. So, yeah, they got that. So, Pilot, what's our free legendary this time around?
So our free legendary is a new Ysera Emerald Aspect. It is the typical stats, 9 mana, 4/12 dragon. It is a neutral card, obviously. And start of game, increase both players' max mana by 5. Battlecry, gain 3 mana crystals. Notice that also says mana, not empty mana crystals, which you would expect for a 9 mana card. So the Star Game effect works kind of like the effect on New Heights, to where it doesn't give you the mana now, so you're not going to start with 6, but it increases your cap from 10 to 15 at the start of the game for both players immediately without playing this card. So interesting. It gives everybody some ramp, but other than that, it's at least not something that's going to break the game right away. It might end up like Shafar, that it breaks it later. But normally these pre-release legendaries are fairly safe cards that they can toss in, fun to play with, but isn't going to do a ton to disrupt the current meta.
I mean, okay, yeah, maybe, but there's also been cards that have been the free ones that have been fairly impactful, right?
Yeah, I think those were before I started playing. So
That's
because there
fair.
was the 2/6 that recast a spell, I forget what it's called. That was right before I started playing, but I saw that card a lot when I first jumped in and did not like it at all because I didn't have it.
Wasn't ETC a pre-release legendary?
It might have been. I don't remember what the pre-release for that was.
Yeah, that was years ago.
A year ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually 2 years ago, right? So
Yeah, that's
because
what I meant.
that was the first set. Can't even remember how many years it's been. So this looks interesting. This has the feel of it's a druid card, right? Because you ramp into it and you get more ramp out of it. Like one of this one, it's like Dungar. It's like yes, it's neutral, but you're only really going to see it in probably druid. So we'll see how it goes. Um,
Warrior also has ramp now because of tourist.
yes, yes, they do, but it's limited. I mean, no, maybe it's not. I don't know.
All the good ramp cards are in that set, so Warrior kind of has all of them except for Gift into Wild Growth.
You're not going away
Like
for this anyway, so
yeah, all the other ramp cards are in that set, so Warrior has all the ramp also.
okay. So we mentioned before, excuse me, in Wild you have the rogue dragon list that you have all dragons and you cheat them
Mhm.
out, scan them out. Narlax Herald of the Flights might go well in that deck. This is a 7 mana 7/7 neutral legendary. It's not a dragon, but it makes your dragons cost 1. So seems pretty strong. Although it's 7 mana, so maybe you got to cheat if you can cheat it out and then play some dragons. That seems like it could be pretty good. Um, but there's always something wacky you can do with a card like this, and it you want it to be fun, not good, because if it's good, it's going to be a problem. But at least it's
Yep.
not make your dragons cost 0, because then that'd be a lot worse. What's the next card?
Yeah. Speaking of possibly good, I did think of something with Ysera of the other class that can break it. That would be Shaman. Murmur makes this cost 1 and gives you 3 mana crystals right away. So because it's a battle cry, Murmur, you have battle cry minions cost 1 but die immediately. You don't care if this dies, so that could be something to watch out for before rotation. I'm sorry for putting that thought into the universe. Next card I had alluded to a little bit. Bitter Bloom Knight is a 2 mana 2/3 neutral common. Battlecry, imbue your hero power. So this works with the imbue classes. It's a vanilla 2/3 for the non-imbue classes, but just a neutral imbue to kind of start getting that keyword going, and then each class that has imbue also has some class cards with it.
How do you like the concept of the keywords here, or the new mechanics here? Are you excited about them?
Im- Imbue is something that I think I will play around with a lot. I really enjoy stuff that changes your hero power. I really liked the is Unguro's, not the expansion. Saviors, Old Doom. The quest that gave you the new hero power. Really enjoyed playing with the couple of those that I actually had when I first started playing. So that's kind of a play style that pulls to me just because it's something different. Um, so kind of wait to see what we get from it, but they seem to be all leaning towards something a little bit slower right now. The hunter one is definitely not overly value based, but it's a hero power to you know hand buff and hand discount. Shaman is just evolve stuff, which is shamany. So we'll see what the other classes do, but I think there's some interesting design space there for them to work with.
And it's also kind of conflicty with the mini set we just had, right? Because you are doing these hero powers, but then you're not going to want to play your, you know,
Mhm.
Kerrigan or something like that, because then it's just going to reset all the work you did on imbuing. So, what about dark gifts? Do you like that concept?
Dark gifts, I think I need to play them to get the feel for them. They were ones that kind of had the first glance at it just because I was at work most of the day. Um, they definitely feel like couple things that we've had in the past. You mentioned lackeys as an idea, but with the randomness of them being kind of like the bonus keywords, you don't know what you're going to get, but you do get to see it when you discover at least, which is definitely helpful. Um, but it's not something you can plan around or plan towards. So I don't know if they're going to be powerful enough to be playing a mostly a low costed discover card into something that is random. We'll see. That probably will be because most of them have been good enough lately, but we'll see. It's something to I think we need to see all the cards first and what the payoffs are.
All right. Well, the next card, I'm not even sure how to say this right. It's Marithra. Marithra. We'll say
Sure.
it's Mary. It's Mary. This is a 6 mana 4/4 Shaman Legendary Battle Cry. Resurrect all different friendly minions that cost 8 or more. Now we're losing some cards that would synergize with this, like Walking Mountain, like I guess Yogg, because that's been some of those ones cards that we were using in the big shaman list where you would cheat them out with cliff dive, and then
Hmm.
they would whatever. So there is synergy with cliff dive and whatever cards they may pull out of this. It's also going to synergize pretty well with the imbued because you're going to ideally get your 4 mana, get imbued for make 8 mana minions and bring them all back. So um, this card is random, and this card is going to tilt you off the face of the planet when it does some random things that you're not happy with, but you're not going to get Leroy because that's gone. Um,
You will get
yeah, no,
Ziliax though.
no, you won't because they will not. Oh, well,
Yes, you will.
resurrect
You'll
different.
get it
Yeah, yeah,
once.
yeah. Fair, 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 fair. If they're playing the big one, if they're playing on Kiliax, which of course they will be. You're right.
Yeah, which this deck
Because
would. So,
Because I was thinking when you said that, I was thinking, no, you're not going to you're not going to randomly evolve into Ziliax, but no, this is not the evolve. That'll just be in the deck.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
so I think this is a fun card. I think again, this is another one of those ones that's going to be hopefully okay, but not too good because if it's too good, it's going to be gross.
Hmm.
Uh, well, so what do we get next?
Next up, we have Creature of Madness. One of our Dark Gift cards here. 2 mana, 1/2, neutral common. Battlecry, discover a 3-cost minion with a Dark Gift. So, just like we talked about before, you'll get the Discover pop up. You have 3 minions, and then underneath them, it'll say what their Dark Gifts are, so that you can pick accordingly. It's a neutral that does the keyword. That's kind of what it's there for.
And it works in all the classes, unlike imbued, like we said. So I mean that
Mm-hmm.
this one has the feel of, I mean, it's 2 mana 1/2, which the stats aren't great, but it feels like almost a natural kind of a curve filler where it's like, okay, you play it on 2, you're going to have something to play it on 3 regardless of how you drew because of this. So I think this card will see play. Even
Yeah.
if dark gifts aren't really a thing and the synergy with them isn't great, this is just a solid value card.
Yeah, any deck that played Scarab Keychain over the past year, the 1-cost discover a 2 mana card, plays this card, I think, just as a curve filler.
All right. So up next we have Merlorn the Way Watcher, which is an 8 mana 8/6 beast, neutral legendary, and Battlecry, discover a legendary wild god. If you've imbued your hero power 4 times, set its cost to 1. So this is going to be a better card for obviously the imbued classes, but it still could be something. I mean, the wild gods are supposed to be pretty powerful. So it's kind of like, yeah, maybe you can discover a Colossus, and maybe you could discover a Colossus that was one that cost 1. There were different things like that. They were still both really good. So I believe I don't know if this. I think all the wild gods are supposed to be class specific. So this will discover from the class specific ones because there won't be any neutral wild gods. I don't think. Maybe there'll be one at some point. Maybe there'll be one in the discover. But I think they said they're all going to be class specific. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I believe they said. So this could be pretty strong. Although it's slow, right? It's 8 mana. I mean, 8 mana, 8/6 beast. So maybe if you've imbued Hunter enough that you can generate this, that'll be good. But a lot of these things look powerful and stuff, but they come later. So if aggro is strong, it's going to be hard to get to these things that do the big thing. So it'll be interesting. Speaking of wild gods, what's up? What's our next card?
So we have the Death Knight Wild God, Ursoc, is a 9 mana, 6/14 beast, legendary. All these are legendaries. Battle Cry, attack all other minions, death rattle, resurrect any this killed.
Now I assume that
Okay.
means it resurrects on your side. So if you kill something, it resurrects for you, not for your opponent, I would think.
That is a very good question. I took it the other way, that it just resurrected wherever it was at. Um, Mainly because I thought that last time they did something like this, it specifically said resurrect it for you. But I'm going to check the wording on that while you talk about the card, because I don't know what to think about this card.
Yeah, I think if it does it, I think if it does it, resurrects things where they are, that's not good. Especially because there's going to be some death rattle synergies and stuff like that. And but if it's if it's resurrects them on your side, it's going to be a nice little. It'll be a nice swing card, a nice tempo turn, especially given that it's a 6/14. If you kill, say, Ziliax, yeah, yours Ursog dies, but you'll grab the Ziliax or you'll grab one of the Ziliaxes. So that'd be weird too, right? So if you kill it and it has Reborn, would you each have a Ziliax then? I don't know. Could be interesting. But I do remember that Ursoc in the Emerald Dream fight was a DPS check. You had to kill it within a certain amount of times, otherwise you were just going to be overwhelmed. It was a fun fight. Underwhelming raid, but a fun fight there. So any clarifications?
Yeah, so the card that I was thinking of was the shaman card we had from Lich King Overlord Jakuru. Rush Wind Fury. After this attacks and kills a minion, resurrect it on your side. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't this one doesn't resurrect on your side. I have not had time to check into that. I was trying to see if I can see it on the video in action, because I could have just run out of space. But I think normally for that they try to specify.
It'll be interesting. So what's our next card?
Our next card is Ominous Nightmares. It is a 1 mana shadow spell for warrior. It is one of our choose one cards that are going out to other classes. And it is choose one, deal 1 damage to all minions, or give a damage minion +2/+2. So seems like we're getting some enrage type support back. The core set support set also, because we saw some of those in the core set reveals that we'll talk about later on. But I'm a fan of enrage coming back. That was a very fun deck and a style that we haven't seen from warrior since then. So hopefully that's kind of where they're pushing it.
I remember how people complained that Warrior, even when we had the Enraged Warrior, people were complaining Warrior wasn't good because people associate Warrior with Control Warrior. And then I remember a certain dev said, "Oh, don't you worry, Warrior's coming." And yeah, Warrior came. Warrior, even when Warrior's not good, when it's a subpar deck, it feels a lot like Blood Death Knight did, even after it kind of lost its steam. It's still good. It's still annoying. It still like feels like, even if it's like, hey, I'm gonna win 40% of the time, those times you lose take 30 minutes and just suck the soul out of you, as you know, Boom Boss takes away your cards and whatnot and all the things. And I like Enrage Warrior better. So I think our friend Enzo will be happy. We'll have to have him on to talk about the warrior things when we get some new types here. But our next card is Barb Thorn. It's a 3-mana weapon, rogue epic. Choose one. Gain poisonous this turn or gain death rattle. Deal 2 damage to all enemies. So it's like either clear 1 minion or clear, a board of things potentially. So I like the flexibility there. It's got a good theme. And I think this is probably a pretty solid card. I don't know. We have 3-mana weapon. I don't know what the stats on it are.
It is a 1/3. Okay, 1 attack 3 durability.
So that's a little.
So the death rattle is slow. The poisonous is quick. I want to kill this right now, which you're willing to sacrifice 1 attack for. Death rattle is a little slower, but it also kind of sets up that awkwardness for the opponent of, I have 1 durability left. How much do you want to play into this 2 damage?
So fair.
It's different. I did find clarification for Ursoc to where I saw that it was said that it should work similar to the Skullomance, was it KT, that spell burst, anything that's killed by the spell, resurrect it, and those are on your side, and it should work similar. So anything that it kills, you should get on your side of the field, but also you can use it to kill your own death rattle things, because we've seen some of that in Death Knight. Unfortunately, Cagehead is rotating, but we'll find something else that we can do maybe.
Yeah, no, maybe this is how we trigger some of our infestors now.
6 turns later.
Yep. 6 turns later. Oh, we'll cheat it out somehow. There'll be some way to cheat it out. There will be. Our next, actually, so what's our next card here, Pylet?
All right, here, very interesting one. One of our typical epic cards that's just very weird to look at. Afflicted Devastator is a 4 mana 6/6 dragon for warrior. Battle Cry, deal 3 damage to all other friendly minions. Death Rattle, deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. So you get the big, overstatted for a large AoE on your own side, with the Death Rattle of doing it back to the other side later on. Obviously, if we're doing something where we're playing this on an empty board on our own side, we're pretty happy with the 4 mana 6/6. If we're doing the enrage stuff and we have health buffs, we could probably get away with it and then go from there. But it kind of depends on if they do enrage, getting the attack buffs like we've seen before. If they do enrage, like with imbued X, or I think that's what it was, the one where when you attack with it, it buffs all your damage minions and gives them the 1/1 or 1/2 or whatever it was. So it kind of depends on what we see from there. I think this card will see play, but I don't know if it'll be good.
I think we're gonna have Egg Warrior. Maybe play a couple eggs and then turn 4, pop the eggs, and now you have a bigger board. I don't know. Maybe I don't even know if we're gonna have eggs available, but I'm assuming that nature. There's always eggs with nature in these nature sets, so we'll see. Next up is the card we saw but didn't see any text for. This is Raptor Herald, and this is a 3 mana 4/2 beast neutral epic. Seems pretty solid. 4/2, I mean, easily killed, but upside of some damage. So, beast. I'm sure Hunter will try to do something with it. What's next?
Next up is, speaking of Hunter, we have Umbra Claw, a Hunter rare beast, 4 mana 5/2, rush, death rattle, imbue your hero power. So, in my opinion, solid card. 5 damage to clear something. Imbue your hero power. That seems fairly solid for 4 mana. If this was a spell or something else, you'd play that. So having it on a minion that you can possibly buff up or reduce the cost of, if you've already imbued your hero power once and can start doing that, there's a lot more upside here. So I think that if we're getting cards like this for imbue, it's definitely going to make that style of deck worthwhile because you're not taking as much of a penalty to ramp up your hero power.
This one feels like, I mean, yes, it's a beast and it's a hunter card, but doesn't this feel more like this should be a demon hunter card?
Yeah, I kind of thought that. I had to double take when I saw it. I thought that it was a demon hunter card at first because it looks very much like one that we've already seen.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it is, but
yeah. So I guys look at it, I'm like, no, this is a demon hunter card. Apparently, we're not happy with the demon hunt. People aren't happy with the demon hunter core changes. So, hopefully they get some really good stuff in the expansion. So our next card is Treacherous Tormentor, which is a neutral epic demon, 4 mana 5/4, discoverable from Sharper. Battle Cry, discover a legendary minion with a dark gift. That seems good. I mean, legendaries typically. I mean, do we really get? Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really
random
get
legendaries are always good.
Random legend. I was gonna say this would be horrible in Wild, but even if there are some clunkers of legendaries, a lot of these cards feel like they're going to be looking at these. The design is really good in that the small pool of legendaries in the 4-set meta will make this strong, possibly strong earlier. But as we get on to 5-set and 6-sets meta, it should wane in power. So even if this is a card we see a lot in this initial meta, it probably won't be something that carries forward as the pool weakens. I kind of like when they do that.
Yeah, probably. So we also have a good mix of cost on the legendaries that will be sticking around, I think. It's not like we're loaded up to where all the legendaries are 5 or more. We've got a decent number throughout the mana curve, so you should be able to find something that you're willing, 1, to pay for, and 2, to have a dark gift on.
Yeah, but you're always gonna take the super greedy, expensive one that is gonna like, "Oh, I just have to get there, and it's gonna be really good," and then you die. Um, I have to make a correction. Raptor Herald was a 3 mana 4/2 beast neutral epic, but my cutting pasting job was horrible. I pasted a couple cards between it. That has a battle cry of discover a beast with a dark gift. So it's a bit stronger than just a 3 mana 4/2. It's got some upside. So that might be along the same lines as um, the other card we saw. Which one was it? Creature of Madness, I think.
Mhm.
It kind of that same line of, just a replacement value engine and having it beast and having a synergy with your imbued hero power could be really good. What do we got next? What's our next card here?
Next up, we have Living Garden, a rare shaman minion that is an elemental. 3 mana, 2/3. Battlecry, imbue your hero power and reduce the cost of a minion in your hand by 1. So, kind of getting the double up there with the Battlecry. Really solid because, yeah, well, you're taking a bit of a stat hit for a 3 mana, 2/3, but you're getting, I think, 2 good effects on the Battlecry, which is worth it. So, it's just a good card in my opinion. Sets up for future plays, sets up your evolve hero power. If you're playing this later on, then you can go ahead and evolve it into a better minion. I'm assuming if you're playing it later on when you can hero power, you've probably already imbued once. So playing that for 3 hero power to turn it into a 5 or 6 drop seems pretty solid.
Agreed. And I bet you there's going to be a card, a neutral card that is bait. That's like your viewed cards imbued twice, right? And that you're going to think, oh, this is great value. You never use it. What was that one? There was one. There was one that. What was the mechanic in Nathria? It was where your minions died. It would
Oh, um, infuse,
infuse. Like if you had
infuse,
one
something
card
like
that
that.
like your infuse counts twice, and no one ever played it ever.
It was it didn't count twice. I think it did it while they were in deck or something like that. While it was
Oh
on
yeah,
board
yeah,
as
yeah.
it was an aura on like a 3 mana minion. Um, that it never lived long enough to actually do anything.
Okay, now this next card is very interesting, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to either make Wicked Good very happy or very sad if it doesn't work. This is the priest legendary minion. This is their wild god. It's a 9 mana 7/11 Aviana Elune's Chosen battle cry. Start a 3-turn lunar cycle. When the full moon rises, your cards cost 1 this game. And it says, note, the cost reduction takes effect on the third start of turn after you play Aviana. Once it's active, any card you can play for the rest of the game is reduced to 1, including cards generated after the effects begin. So I'm thinking kill Jaden, maybe? Uh, right?
Ugh.
Note that you can reduce one cost cards to 0 with further cost reductions, such as Parrot Sanctuary. Finally, Aviana is Priest Wildguard, which matters for Malorn the Way Watcher. So yeah, that is interesting. And our friend Alu on Twitter today posted the combo. You know, they always have these wild combos you think of that never come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But it has Envoy of Prosperity, Battlecry, put the highest cost card. That's a 2 mana 4/4. Put the highest cost card in your hand on top of your deck. And then Twilight Medium, Taunt, Battlecry, set the cost of the top card of your deck to 1. Now, that is an 8 cost combo, and Aviana costs 9. So you would have to have some ways to cheat those things out, maybe like with the Parrot Sanctuary or something like that to make it happen earlier. But I like the hustle.
uh, yeah. Um, I yeah. I think the most appropriate description I saw of this card today was it's not the worst Aviana we've had in the game, which is true. That is a true statement. I don't know how much better it is. This one is, but it is better than that. I just so you're paying 9 for it. If you have it on 9, even if you have it on 8, coin it out on 8, or if you have Parrot Sanctuary that you can discount it. You're not getting the effect until turn 11 or 12. How slow of a format do we have to have for this to be a winning card? If we're in a greed pile format, yes, I can see that. I don't know if you can fit enough greed pile stuff in there. Like you mentioned, Kill Jaden, all those would cost 1. So yes, I could see that, but man, that's a really slow format, and needing a lot of survivability, which I think Priest is getting back in, obviously in this set, it looks like, and in some of the core set. But I don't know if we're going to be that low on lethality. So we'll see. I've been plenty wrong before.
You just put this card in ETC. Oh wait, no more ETC. It's a fun card, and it's one of those. This is one of those cards. Again, is if it's good, then it's problematic. Probably right. It's a fun design. This is one of those cards that I feel like is going to not see play until like the 6th set, and something like else makes it so that way it's just a combo that works, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere. So, but yeah, there's always people that come up with the combos that never pan out. Although there was the one where you would Tony Steam Cleaner and whatnot, or whatever it was, where you'd swap your decks and then you steam clean it and then you'd swap it back or whatever like that. So that one actually hit for a hot minute, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and then I think that led to a change in Tony, or that was fun. I like when you come, but like I've I've gotten to the point now where I've been doing this for 10 years plus. I'm no longer like baited by the, oh, hey, there's this combo that you can do where you get this card and this card. If it's more than 2 cards that cost more than 6 mana, guess what? It's probably going to be pretty hard to pull off. And yeah, it'll make a nice little clip, but it's not going to happen that often. Like how much did we try to do the Tony? Like I spent, speaking of Tony, I spent so much time building up that weapon that every time you play outcast cards, you draw more cards when it was a death rattle, and then you play Tony on the other person's
Mm-hmm.
deck, and then you swing with the weapon and you delete all their cards, and then it switches back or whatever like that. So they're fun. The combos are fun, but I don't necessarily see this landing early on. But again, could be wrong. If you haven't seen the set. But just
Yeah.
generally, this seems like a really slow card.
It is. I want to clear. I do think it's a powerful effect, but it's
Yes.
something to where it by itself doesn't win the game. You also need, if we were doing something like a Galakrond, just that infinite value type stuff, then this probably helps you win the game because you get to play a ton of those rather than just here's my one thing per turn and wait to see what happens with it. But I guess the only thing that we have with that is Kill Jaden. But these also aren't the types of decks that I play, so I don't know all of them off the top of my head super well. And we haven't had a whole lot of Control Priest recently.
And we've been better for it. This one feels a lot like Wheel of Death, though, right? Like Wheel of Death, we saw that like, oh, there's no way this is going to be playable. And then all of a sudden, we were playing it, and it was good until they broke. Like they then changed the
Yeah,
Highlander effect. So there's
I was
potential
winning
here.
with Wheel of Death a few weeks ago. I was playing it in the Zerg as an extra win condition. But Wheel of Death also wins the game with that card. Like that
Yeah,
card is slow, and that card itself wins the game. This Aviana by herself does not win the game. You need the other stuff with it, and that's what I don't know what we're doing with the cheap cards.
I don't know. Do wild games ever go along? Because maybe you can do something with like Mechathune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. Although usually I think wild games go faster than that. So those are the new cards that we know about so far. Like we said, we won't be here next week. The week after, I don't know if we're going to try to catch up on all the cards or only catch up on the cards that are interesting. We don't want to keep you here for 4 hours. So we're not going to do the off curve review of every single card. Not saying we won't talk about every single card because there's a chance of that, but we're not going to do it all in one sitting in one go, and we'll figure out how we catch up in a couple weeks. But it's looking interesting. You know, I haven't seen anything that has blown me away, but I mean, the cards look fun and interesting, and I can definitely see like I said, you're not going to want to play your imbued cards possibly with the new heroes that we gotten for StarCraft. I don't know if we're gonna get any heroes in this set. If I do, I bet you they're gonna be the dark gift ones and not imbued guys, unless it has some sort of synergy with imbued, which who knows? Double your imbued. But I don't know if we were gonna see a hero, I figured it would have been Ysera or something, and clearly that's not the direction they're going. So looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to this reveal season. We also get a new core set, and we got three new cards that are brand new to the core set and have never existed before. Pilot, you want to go through these?
Yeah. We have a couple Death Knight cards that are brand new. Poison Breath is a 2-mana spell with no runes. Give a friendly undead poisonous. And then we also have Falric, which is a 3-mana 2/4 legendary minion with 2 undead runes. You gain twice as many corpses than normal, and then Battlecry draw a card that spends corpses. So that extra corpses you gain, that is an aura that's on the card as long as it lives, and then you have the Battlecry to draw a card. Interesting. They seem to be swapping when we talk about all the cards here. The Death Knight switches were all swapping out a lot of high mana stuff or a lot of lower mana stuff. So I don't know if they want to go a little bit more aggressive with it or a little bit more. These are kind of more value oriented. We do have some undead that do AoE damage, so that could be a 2-mana kill everything with Poison Breath. But some interesting switches. And then for Mage, we are getting a new card that is a playoff of an old card, Babbling Bookcase, a 3-mana 2/4 Battlecry, add 2 random mage spells to your hand. So playoff of Babbling Book, that added 1. This one is more expensive, but adds 2.
I think with Poison Breath, I believe that Wild Pyromancer is in the core set too. So, I mean, that's like a natural clear there.
Yeah, I always forget that that's an undead now.
Yep. And so is Wisp, by the way. Wisp is now an undead. Oh, they didn't do the thing this time around with the core set where it's like, hey, do you want wisps or penguins or? Yeah, I'm kind of sad about that.
We unjustly lost our penguin.
Although maybe because it seems like there might be some Murloc synergy coming, that maybe they just decided to go with the tiny fin. I didn't even see.
We don't have tiny fin.
No, we don't. Okay.
It's Wisp. Wisp is in. I thought that you knew Wisp was in. I thought that's why you talked about it. Wisp is our 0-mana 1/1 for next year.
Bummer. Wisp is the most boring out of all of them. Although there was a Wisp deck at one point that you were playing Wisp simply to get minions on board. What was it? It was something that Pocket Train was doing, wasn't it?
That sounds right. I don't know what it is, but that sounds like a Pocket Train thing.
Yeah, it was like it was. I think it was in Rogue. They were wisps too. You had to play cards per turn or something like that.
And it was an Edwin deck.
Oh yeah. That's right. There you go.
Edwin. Yeah, it was the Edwin that they broke when they buffed it. The draw a card if you play it +2/+2 and draw another card and keep repeating it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they did it just before the holiday break, right before the Masters Tour, and yeah, somebody brought it, and
they did it during the Masters Tour by accident.
Yeah, no,
do you remember that?
Was great. Yeah, that was good. So these, I mean, seem possibly impactful. I mean, Balric, it's a legendary, but it's also a tutor. So even if you don't get the value out of spending the corpses, you get a tutor. I don't know what we're doing here with Babbling Bookcase unless we're really trying to get a random spell mage going again. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm not seeing it there. All right, so we're losing all the dragons. You brought this up to me, like all the dragons, but that's probably because they're getting replaced this year with other things like Ysera. We're getting Ysera. We're probably going to get Malagos and who and whatnot with different versions of them. So it makes sense that they're rotating out. We're losing giants, the traditional giants. You still have like Seaside and the other giant that if you play. So this is an actual card. I'm not making this up. There's a giant that if you play adjacent cards, it gets cheaper, and it's never seen play ever. In fact, even if you discover it off of something and it's one of your options, you still pick a different giant because you actually recognize those giants. Um,
All
the
right, all
Seaside
right.
Giant has
I
seen
do
some
have to
play.
push back once a little bit. It has seen play by one person that should not be surprising. Uh, Edelweiss was playing it in um, something the other week. I don't think that she kept it in there, but she was playing it in. I don't remember what it was. It was one of the StarCraft decks. So, but that was a couple
Crewmate
weeks ago
DH.
because it did get you know brought down because it was something that you're playing a lot of cheap cards. So if it ends up in the middle, you're discounting it by 2 or 3 a turn, and suddenly you have an 8/8.
So
I've
what was it?
considered it a
Crewmate
couple
DH
times, but
or
on me, no, no, it was something after the mini set, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
okay? Fair, fair, fair. So unless you've watched at a live stream or hang out in the Clinton C Discord, you've never seen that card. Like it seems like it would be good in the priest where you have like orbital, okay, whatever it is. The when you play an adjacent minion, you get divine shield plus one
Yeah.
plus two or something. Um, yeah. By the way, speaking of cards that never we'll never see play, how's Red Dwarf treating you?
How's what?
Red Dwarf,
Dwarf Planet?
Dwarf Planet. That's it. That's it.
Hey, I had a winning record with that deck.
3-0, 3-1, 3-2.
Something like that. Sounds about right. Before I stopped testing my luck. So I still really like that card. I do think that it's underrated. I just haven't figured out what deck to put it in yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So Death Knight. It's Death Knight's losing Soul Stealer, and that seems to be a big deal.
Yeah, as far as classes that are losing cards, I think Death Knight is getting hit the hardest, mainly because I recognize the most cards out of Death Knight. Compared to the other shaman has a lot of changes. Priest has a couple big ones, but Death Knight is losing Soul Stealer, which was the 8 mana destroy everything and gain corpses. It's also losing the weapon that freezes enemy minions as a battle cry. So those are a couple big losses. It loses the 1/2 that deals 2 damage to an enemy and your hero. Loses Corpse Bride. Loses Scourge. Loses Plague Grain. So Plague Grain doesn't really matter. Scourge wasn't being played, but is being discovered probably more often. But the others all saw relevant meta play at some point. So those are some very, very interesting swaps. Now for Corpse Bride, we're losing the CNE or the legendary spell. So, and they kind of added some other corpse spenders back in. But like I said, they're all these cards are a lot cheaper, like Tomb Guardian or Malignant Horror, things like that. So kind of interested to see where they decide to push Death Knight with cheaper cards.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it'll be interesting, and I like Malignant Horror coming back. That was always a fun card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and Might of Menethol is one you never really ran, but you would discover off the discover weapon, and it would be timely to freeze your enemy board.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Demon Hunter is weird. We're losing Metamorphosis, which is like the only card they're losing that saw play, but that was that was a big card, especially being buffed. It used to be 5 mana, I believe. Now it's 4 mana. So losing that is bad. Expendable Formers. I mean, we weren't seeing any real token Demon Hunters, so it really didn't matter. We're getting Priestess of Fury back, which could be good like in a Shopper deck if you're playing with Shopper, because it doesn't matter if it's a 1/1. You're still doing 6 damage split amongst all enemies at the end of turn. You also got Zaya the Incredible, which is copy the left and right cards in your hand, which is weird. You get the
Yeah.
Fellstalker. which is the 3 mana 3/2 rush death rattle deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. That was a pretty good card. That was one that we played a
Hmm.
bit with, but Demon Hunter's been in a bad place for since Shopper. Since Chopper got kind of out of the meta, we haven't really had a true demon. I mean, yeah, you had a brief flash in time where you had the attack demon hunter with the sock puppets, but then that was a brief 2 week kind of period.
We had attack. We had pirate, but it was the second best pirate deck running demon hunter cards. Because pirate shaman was just better than it using its own cards against it because of tourist. Um, but yeah, it's been a little while.
So here's hoping they get something good. I miss relics. Bring relics back. Put relics in the core set. Come on,
I,
it's not. We're not asking a lot.
I'm excited for the death rattle stuff to come back. They've had a few support cards this past year. Um, and I think some good cards. They just didn't have a deck to go with them. And Tusk Piercer and Fell Rattler certainly helped fill that deck out with draw and with board control. Those were two very, very good cards. Those went in anything that was running Death Rattles. You would throw Death Rattles into a Demon Hunter deck because of those cards. So I think if they bring something back along those lines, that seems pretty promising, and those decks are normally felt fairly well received.
There. All right. So Druid. They're losing Cenarius. They're losing Ancient of Lore. They're losing Lesser Jasper Spellstone and Druid of the Claw. I didn't realize either any of those cards were in the core set. Never saw any play out of any of them, so I don't think
Nope.
that they're going to miss them. They're getting back Fandral, which Fandral Staghound, which is a 4 mana 3/6. You choose one cards and powers have both effect combined, which seems on theme, but you have to. Such a slow card. You have to play it. You also have to play your the thing, keep it alive. I mean, if it had stealth, maybe like that could be interesting. But if it's a theme, I don't know if it's going to be any good. You're also getting Vibrant Squirrel, so Ben Heathstone should be happy.
Squirrels, yes.
Yep, Death Rattle Shuffle 4. I remember playing decks with this, so there were some decent decks with it. I don't know if it's too slow, but it was fun. You also get Best in Shell, which was a great card. Tradable, 6 mana, summon 2/7 turtles with taunt. Always good against, weapon rogues. And then you got Flipper Friends, which is the 5 mana choose one, summon either a 6/6 Orca, which you really never picked unless you were really desperate. And the other one was 6 Otters with Rush. Use it for a clear. So, I mean, they're getting some decent cards back. Thankfully, none of those cards are ramp. I don't know. What do you think about the Druid there?
Yeah, I mean, we had Beast Druid for quite a while and some Token Druid stuff. It's been a while since we've had that. Dragon Druid was the closest that we had, and it wasn't exactly the same until you got to the 7 mana copy one. But these are all cards that saw a lot of play when those decks were in, with Flipper Friends might being the least one, but it still saw a decent bit. So I'm excited for that. That's the type of druid that I like to play. I really enjoyed those Beast Druid decks. We have a couple tokeny support cards in Druid already that came out at the end of the year, so we'll see if that kind of builds into a deck quickly or if it's a second set thing.
Sadly for our friend World 8, we will no longer have Drum Circle.
Oh, you're right.
Yep. All right. So Hunter. Hunter's losing Dragonbane, which I believe we all remember. You always get it from Cheese and never seen it played in Hunter. Savannah Highmane. Now Lesser Emerald Spellstone. If you don't remember what that card does, that's a 5 mana summon 2/3/3 wolves. Play a secret to upgrade, and you can get 3 wolves or 4 wolves. Now keep in mind there has been secrets Hunter in the last year or so, and over the last couple years, and this card never saw its way into any of those decks, so it will not be missed. Kill Command, I'm surprised didn't see. I think Kill Command could actually cost 2 now, and that's deal 3 damage. If you control a beast, deal 5 damage. I think you'd play it with if it was 2 mana, but yeah,
Kill
just
Command was
never.
played
In what?
in the Jungle Gym deck, in the Saddle Up deck. You played Kill Command.
Maybe.
It
Yeah, I guess
that
you're
just
right.
wasn't hasn't been played since Adolf got nerfed. It's still okay. It's still a decent deck, just no one plays it.
Fair. Um, they're picking up Varanus, which is a 6 mana 7/6 dragon. Battlecry changed the health of all enemy minions to 1. Terrascale Stalker, Battlecry trigger friendly minions Death Rattle, which Death Rattle is coming up. We have Mountain Bear, so Just a Guy should be very happy. 7 mana 5/6 taunt Death Rattle summon 2/4 clubs at taunt. So those cards have some synergy right there. And Wound Fray deal 1 damage summon a 1/1 hyena with. I'm not particularly excited about what we're getting back from Hunter, but I mean it's not like disappointing either. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Wound Prey is a very good card. Um, Mountain Bear was always good, so I like how they've just kind of slapped in some generally good cards. Not busted, not overly built around, but just good cards for some that weren't seeing play or are losing their support. Hunter's kind of a just one of those. Yep, we put in some cards that'll be better this year, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, agreed. All right. So those are the ones I have in front of me. Are there any other classes? Like I know we priest is you mentioned priest. What does priest got going for it?
Yeah. So Priest was probably the other one that stood out to me, mainly because it is losing Crimson Clergy. So we are losing a massive draw engine that we've had for the past year with Overheal. They are getting some really good cards back that saw a lot of play. They're getting Spirit Guide, which is the Death Rattle draw a Holy and Shadow spell. They're getting Light Shower Elemental, Death Rattle restore 8 health to all friendly characters. So they're getting some good cards back there. They're getting a couple spells that draw cards with Power Word Shield and Greater Healing Potion. So we'll see if that's enough. But Clergy was such a key part of Priest draw. As far as other classes, it's a lot of um, kind of one for one switches, or we're losing this support, or this card's a little bit redundant, so we're going to take it out. I'm trying to scroll through and find which one stood out most to me. Paladin, I think, is getting a much better core set.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking out a lot of some of the Silverhand recruit cards and Liadrin for Anachronos, the dragon that sends all other minions 2 turns into the future. And then we have some Murloc support. We have Immortalize and Stone that summoned all the taunts. Those are all solid cards. Rogue is getting
Hold on.
Foxy Fraud
You're you're
back.
ski- you're
Oh,
you're skipping Paladin, the piece de resistance that they're bringing back out of Chronos. 7 mana 8/8 dragon battle cry set all other minions 2 turns into the future. That card saw a lot of play when it was out, so I think it was such an awkward way for the just for your opponents to deal. Do they continue to replay onto the board, or do they just lose the minions that they've sent into the future or whatnot? I think that card's a significant card. All right, so what about mage? We got Archmage, Antonidas, Tony back. I don't think we're gonna see much with it. I wasn't really impressed with that. Um, Rogue still has Shadow Step, so anything else is kind of mute, right?
yeah.
They get Foxy Fraud back, right? So that's a 2 mana 3/2 battle cry. Your next combo card this turn costs 2 less. They're getting Defias Ringleader back. And there's also been some combo support in the last set, so that could be interesting. Um, Warlock's getting the Simulacrum back. It's losing Twisting Nether. That's interesting. Defile, Voidwalker. I mean, if you're playing too many core cards, then your deck's probably not that strong, right? So I think that there's probably a couple cards here like Bulwark of Azeroth for Warrior. That's probably going to see some play and control Warrior. Um, there are some cards. Lord Walker Cho is back. Daniel Stormrage Sheldon should be happy. Morage Forge Fiend. 8 mana, 8/8 taunt, death rattle, gain 8 armor. If we're bringing back cards again in Priest, that can be really annoying. But overall, if every time we've said that this core set seems spicy, the spicy cards never see play. Like I remember Lyra came back and everyone's like, "Oh, Lyra's back," and you never saw Lyra played. So I think they kind of went, you know what? We're not going to try to bring back the spicy cards that people. They're just like, we're just going to bring solid cards that, if you have a small collection, can fill in some gaps. And there's a couple cards that maybe you could key around, but I don't think you want to have cards in your core set that actually define decks.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And there's a couple of really good ones that are coming back. Well, that'll be seeing a lot of play. Bulwark of Azeroth you mentioned. We're getting a couple more Zulok cards. I know that we're losing Voidwalker, but no one was playing Bloodbound Imp, and we're kind of trading it off for Fiendish Servant, the Homunculus, Dark Peddler. So hopefully, True Zulok comes back. I've been wanting to play some of that. Curator is in the core set. That's probably the most interesting addition, and it's buffed. It's 5 mana. Um, so for those of you who forgot what that card does, taunt 4/6 battle cry, draw a beast, dragon, and murloc from your deck. So a little bit of menagerie support or targeted draw. Draw 3 for 5 is normally pretty good. So we're also getting Cornelius Roam back. At the start and end of each player's turn, draw a card. That's you draw a card, not at the start of each player's turn they draw an extra card. So that was a card from Stormwind that everyone's just like, this card isn't going to see any play, and then it actually saw some play in some of those aggro, dump your hand decks because you didn't have anything else to do on 6 anyways. So you just played it, got some extra cards, and made them deal with it. So a couple other interesting additions and subtractions in the neutrals that some of these we'll see play in those types of decks, like some token support, some menagerie support, some big support. But none of them are overly build around or game breaking, like you said.
Grunter's gone away, which is game breaking. So that's interesting. Mind control tech going away. I don't know why they brought that back and made it better in the first place. If they're going to bring it back again, I hope they revert it to pick a random minion to get back. Finge is back, so that'll be fun. I don't know if it'll see play, but it'll be fun. A couple cards got buffed, like Carne is now 6 mana, 5/5. And if you think that there's no chance of anybody playing Octosari in a deck, I say I'm playing that, and it's going to be in a Meteor deck, and we're going to make it work. It may not work well, but we'll make it work. Any final thoughts on the core set before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I think it's a solid use of what the core set is meant to be, to give support cards and fill gaps based on what's coming in and out of standard at the time. They're taking out class cards that are losing all their support and putting in some that kind of match where we have some holes from this year or possible things for or this current year and stuff for the next year. So I'm excited. I think it's a good rotation. I'm still really interested to see what they end up doing with the dragons, because I'm convinced that we're going to end up seeing all the dragons come back as standard cards sooner rather than later. So hoping that they come up with some really interesting new designs for those.
And there's 2 expansions we'll see them, right? Like this expansion we'll see some dragons, and also the Chromie one at the end of the year we'll see some.
Oh yeah.
So it should be interesting. I also like it. Also looks like they're bringing back some menagerie support. You get the jug and the mug, and the curator, and so I think we're going to see some menagerie decks out there. At least they're going to try to put some menagerie decks out there. Whether or not they take hold depends on what cards they have. But I'm looking forward to it. It's so far, the theming of this hasn't gripped me. If I'm honest, like it's not a big concert in the Thunder Bluff. It's not StarCraft. It's not, the theming of it is kind of meh. But I've always felt that about the Emerald Dream. But the cards themselves seem interesting. And not every theme has to hit, I guess. It's not. But like, what are your thoughts on the theme? Do you like it?
I'm not a Warcraft player, so it doesn't make too much difference to me. It seems like they're, from what I've seen from the reveal video and all that, it seems like they're taking a lot of interesting things, from lore wise and from the from Warcraft to make it work. I've really like how they did the spin on the keywords this time. I think that we had discussed about a year ago. It's like, how far can they actually go with keywords before they start running out of things that they can do? And I think that this set shows that there's a lot of possibilities for what they can put on a keyword and keep things interesting and different. So to me, I enjoy it, but it's not something that kind of I look at quite as much, at least not at this point. I like seeing if all the cards kind of fit together more than like, oh, I really like that specific set idea.
So you think that imbued is inspired
What?
as a keyword? I said, so you think imbued is inspired as a keyword?
Yes.
All right. So, question of the week. We've already asked you plenty of questions. I'm going to ask you this week: dark gifts or imbued?
I think I already answered earlier with imbued because it fits my general play style and deck building. What about you?
I like dark gifts. I think imbued is going to be stronger, but I just kind of like you. You know, I like to play the Countess, right? So I like when you can generate some sort of chaos that's controlled that you may be able to use to win. Like if there's any consistency at all, where like you get some, you're gonna get something that's going to be impactful. I love those. Like I really wish we had the Countess back. Bring her back. Come on. I mean, I know I can play her in Wild, but I'm not going to. Uh, so, folks, 2 episodes in a relatively short period of time. We bring this content for you because we want you to be educated about what's happening in Hearthstone and excited and hopefully learning a few things. So if you like the show, if you miss Doc, if you like Pylet and you want to welcome him aboard, if you say, hey, no, Pylet, let's go ahead and get somebody else in here because we don't, just kidding. But the reviews help. So helps people find the show, and we love to help people find the show because, we have some good guests on, and the more people that can listen to our guests, is better for them, better for us, better for you. So any help there would be great. Pylet, you got anybody you like to where can people find you on social media, actually?
You can mainly find me on Discord. I'm in quite a few different Hearthstone related Discords, and you can DM me there. It's Pylet712, Pylet. And then you can also find me on Twitter.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, while we can still TikTok in America, at Tito Santana HS. You get any shout outs or anything this week, Pylet?
I want to give a shout out to Doc. So it was always great hearing him on the show and great chatting with him the times that I got to guest on the show with him. Really glad with what he did with the podcast before, and kind of the perspective that he brought, and understand why he decided that it was time to step away, and I'm hoping that I can fill those shoes appropriately.
Awesome. And again, I'm going to shout out Doc as well. It was a good run. Hope married life treats you well, and I hope you just enjoy gaming and hopefully find your way back to Hearthstone, or if not, that's cool too. Also want to shout out all the new devs that were in the reveal video. It was nice to kind of see kind of a different take on it, where it wasn't just like the people up front, but it was kind of a good view, I think, of the whole team. So I like that. And Pylet, I want to thank you for stepping up and becoming a host and being with me, not only in regards to a pillar of the show that showed up when I needed you, but also, just nightly as I'm streaming and stuff, that you've been there. So I appreciate you. And thank you for joining me on this journey, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
See ya.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.